My name is Kate, and I'm a zookeeper at Roger Williams Park Zoo.
My name is Khaz, and I'm also a zookeeper at Roger Williams Park Zoo.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. All right, y'all. So this is an episode that was not planned and really almost should not exist, but it is such a great example of why I love doing this podcast. So this is an episode from Roger Williams Park Zoo. And it is all about binturongs and training and husbandry and the effects that those things had on just these two individual binturong lives. And it blows me away. And the reason I say this episode shouldn't exist is that this was not planned. This was not scheduled. We talk about this in the episode a little bit, but I heard this story while I was at the zoo and I was like, this is an episode. And everyone was super cool, and it became an episode. So now it is this episode, and I have to tell y'all, I'm not allowed to be biased, but this is one of my favorite stories I have ever had on the podcast. Hands down, it is just fantastic. I think you're going to love it. So before we get to that story, though, a couple of things. Do not forget to follow along at Rossifari on the socials. Make sure you hit subscribe on whatever podcast feed you're listening to so you don't miss any episodes of either the interviews or the Zoo News stuff. And don't forget that you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. So with all of that said, come and join me. I'm going to be introducing you to my friends Khaz and Kate, and they're at Roger Williams Park Zoo. And after a shift that they worked, we went to a food truck festival and sat down in the middle of a field and denied a squirrel some food and then did an interview. It's a good time, and I think you're really going to love it. So without further ado, here's the interview. Go ahead. We'll go like game order.
Full name?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We're off to a great start.
Full name.
Just like government alias?
Yes. Yeah. And I will need to check your ID and make sure.
All right.
I'm leaving all of this in, by the way, just so you know.
Great.
That is the feel of the
Like
podcast.
what my parents call
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Written on the birth certificate or all right. My name is Kate, and I'm a zookeeper at Roger Williams Park Zoo, or animal care specialist. And I primarily work in the adaptations area of the zoo. I also will float down and work in ambassadors. And I also work on the farm from time to time.
My name is Khaz, and I'm also a zookeeper at Roger Williams Park Zoo. I call myself a swing keeper because I kind of float around through different areas. So primarily I work in what we knew formerly as the Marco Polo area, now DBA Himalayan Trek.
Yes.
The adaptations area, formerly known as Australia-Asia Department, and the Ambassador Animal Program, as well as the farm, which is part of the adaptations area as well. So,
Very cool. Very cool. And of course, because y'all are in adaptations, you're with some of my favorite animals at the zoo. And so we will get to that because I'm very excited about that. But before we do that, I'm just curious. So I want to share the story with my listeners about why I'm sitting here with both of you right now, because this was wildly unplanned. We did not know each other yesterday, and now we are sitting outside at a food truck festival and recording an episode. So will you tell the story of how we met and how this ball got rolling?
Yeah. So a keeper, Mac, that works at Roger Williams Park Zoo, let me know that you were coming to see the tree kangaroos and just to say hi. And if I were working on that run at the time, to let you come in and see Poppy. And I ran into you because I was going to check on Allison, another keeper that was working in the area, to see if she needed anything. And we got to talking, and you said that your favorite animals were sea turtles, red pandas, binturongs, and tree kangaroos.
I love that you have this memorized. You're like, I don't really remember his name, but I know what animals he
Literally,
likes.
as soon as you said sea turtles, I was like, I like this guy. And it was crazy because my favorite animal is a sea turtle. But since working here, I have also fallen deeply in love with binturong. So we got to talking, and I had you come over and meet our male and our female. And it was great.
It was great. And we're going to talk more about that. And that it was the genesis of the idea for this interview, because you have had an impact on their lives and on their husbandry and their welfare and all of that. And I really want to talk about that. But I'm going to put you on the spot here and embarrass you in front of a friend. But the reason there are two of you here is...
When we were talking just about the binturong and the river otters and just how I came to work with them, I've been like a team with Khaz since Khaz came to the zoo. Khaz has taught me so much about training, and I'm so grateful that Khaz works in the same areas that I do, and we work so well together. And we're known as the dynamic duo of the zoo.
I'm not going to cry. It's fine.
That's so
I'm not going to cry.
I also literally love that you were looking as far away from Khaz as you could while saying that, and you were staring
I'm just looking at
intently
you, and
as
I'm
she
like,
was saying
if I
it.
was an emoji, I would be like crying emoji with like, that's my face right now.
It was legitimately one of the cutest things I've seen all week.
I'm like, oh, my
and that is a
friend
week that has
likes
included
me.
sea turtles and tree kangaroos and binturong.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had that on
Like,
video.
she
That
likes
was
me.
adorable.
She really likes me.
I mean, it literally went from, so from my perspective, I was interviewing the NEI bird team. And I was very much like, I hadn't talked to Corey. I'd let her know it was coming, but I wasn't pushing for an interview. I was just here doing Red Panda like a month or two ago. And I don't like to push too hard with any facility, even where I have great relationships. And I was just like, we're just going to let this cook. I've got NEI coming up. I've got other interviews. I don't need a Roger Williams interview this time. We'll be back. And as you and I were talking, I was so inspired. I was like, oh, this could be a good interview. And then when you started talking about this relationship, I was like, well, crap. And then we met, and you and I seem to have the same go with the flow attitude. And so
For sure.
and I love that you're like, I'm like, hey, it's nice to meet you. And you're like, we follow each other on Instagram.
I felt like such a jerk.
It was so funny.
I felt like such a jerk saying that, but because I didn't know your name was John, I thought your name was Ross.
I get that all the time.
So you were like, my name
Rossifari.
is John. And
Yeah.
I was like, who? And then you're like, oh, Rossifari. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know you. I follow you on Instagram. And
Yeah.
I'm this stupid Instagram handle name also. Not that your handle is stupid. Mine is very dumb.
My handle is a fun pun, but is stupid because I never thought when I launched the Rossifari Empire, it is not that. But when I launched this, I never thought that it would be big enough where I would be doing this years later and telling people about it and having thousands of listeners. And literally all the time now. Even, just up here, I'm walking away from the sea turtle hospital, and one of the keepers comes running up to me and is like, what's your podcast again? And I'm like, Rossifari. And she's like, what? And I'm like, okay, so my last name's Rossi, and it's like Safari, and why didn't I call this Zoopod? Damn it. Why didn't I call it Zoopod?
Opportunity missed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I screwed up so bad, but I also really love it. And a lot of those people are like, no, that's actually really creative. And I'm like, yeah, but it sucks to explain.
You're like, cool. So I thought it was cleaner than it was.
Yeah.
It translates really well. I'm not going to justify myself. Thanks for asking.
Back when I had 300 followers, I was like, woo, Rossifari, and
Yeah.
we can say we're the Rossifarians, and
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's fun, but, you know.
Yeah, but I felt so bad after that. I was like, oh man, that was a cold opener. Good job, Khaz.
No,
When I was just like, yeah, bro, I know who you are. And then I was like, gotta go, bye.
Yeah.
It's like,
Corey and I had a good laugh about it. But no, that was fun. And then we were just like, we chatted on Insta, and I was like, I don't know, I'm around. And you're like, we're around. And now we're at a food truck festival. So
Yep.
rock and roll.
I sat Khaz down at lunch that day and I said, Khaz, I have to tell you something. Sit down. Don't be mad at me. And they're like, I know, we're going on a podcast. I was like, dang. I was so excited
I was
to
like,
tell
one,
you.
I can never be mad at you. Two, I already know.
It is amazing to me, just since we've all been sharing off the recording about our own journeys and stuff, it is really amazing to me to be in a place now where I can literally just be standing at a zoo, meet someone, connect with the PR for 30 seconds, and a day later be hanging out. And like, it's not just the trust of the zoo, but y'all are trusting me. Here we are together. You're out of work. You're off the clock. And we're just hanging out, having a good time. And it's like the trust to go in and see the animals and be behind the scenes, and the trust from the zoo and the trust from y'all. It is kind of, it's really beautiful, and it means a lot. And like, even Corey, who I have this great relationship with, and I've had a relationship with the zoo from very early on in the podcast, just mixing it up and just being like, yeah, you're fine. Go. Yeah. No thought, no question. I was just like, I okay. Maybe one day the imposter syndrome will go away. Probably should, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not here weirdly enough to talk about me, but to talk about y'all. So let's dive right into the binturongs at the zoo, and start off by introducing them, and then we'll talk about maybe some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday.
You've worked with them longer than I have.
Okay.
Kate was
Okay.
in it. Kate was the binturong keeper when I started. So,
Which is crazy because I wasn't really allowed in there until very recently. So it blows my mind every day that I get to work so closely with them now. So we have two binturong at the zoo. Our male, Ricky, who is 18 years old.
That's insane.
He's an old man.
He's so old. He's so good, though.
He's so good.
He's a good dude.
He's such a crotchety old man.
Oh, my gosh.
He's a good dude.
Yep.
I felt, so you let me feed him and some grapies, and I felt very judged when one of them fell out of his mouth, not by you, but directly by Ricky, who literally looked at me like, come on, man, do better.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, who is this amateur?
Yeah. I need to see a manager.
But yeah, so tell me more about Ricky.
Yeah. I've known Ricky for almost 3 years now. And when I started, I was told that male binturong can be very unexpected at times. So I should be very careful around him. And I got to know him through the years, and I've had to work very close with him due to some of his health conditions since he is so old. So the kind of relationship that I've built with him is very different from keepers that have worked with him longer, which is shocking to me. And I can kind of teach people more about them than just, their bite is worse than their bark.
Yeah. More than just your quick 10 biofacts about binturong. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we have our female Poppy. I believe Poppy is 7 years old now, and she's been a tough animal to form a bond with. She used to be a keeper that worked here previously's go-to girl for training, and when that keeper left, she kind of fell into almost a depressive state, and we were talking about almost like an end-of-life plan for her because she was failing to thrive, and she wasn't really eating and wasn't going out on habitat, and so that was a reality that I've never faced because I'm still what the zoo field refers to as a greenkeeper. So I kind of brought this all to Khaz, and we kind of just came up with a plan. Like, okay, Poppy's dealing with this. How can we make it better? Like, how can we give her more confidence? How can we make her trust us more, you know? And now when I go in there and I like pull the target stick out, she's like up, ready to go, wants a grape. We'll shift from holding to holding space. I've gotten her in a crate. I've gotten to inject her voluntarily for a major procedure. So it's crazy that I've come so far so fast.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Welcome to Tiny Expeditions, a podcast about genetics, DNA, and inheritance from the Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology.
In each episode, we explore the exciting world of genetic research. We talk with some of the world's leading scientists about what's happening in the lab.
We also spend time talking with those who are using this information in everyday life.
We cover topics like DNA and forensics,
Saving the world's peanut supply with DNA,
preparing for future pandemics,
the promise and limitations of home DNA tests,
what happens when you put plants in space,
and how biotechnology can help us feed and fuel the world.
So join us on this journey into tiny science with the Tiny Expeditions podcast.
This might be a weird thing to say, but I'm proud of you for that. I think we need people like that.
I'm doing it in the mic. Can you hear me
yes.
snapping
Oh, yeah.
in the mic?
I can hear you in the mic. Yes, very good. No, yes, all the snaps.
For your eardrums.
No, all good, all good. That's why we turned you down. It actually sounds fine. But no, but seriously, I think it's important to say those kinds of things, and I don't think people do enough. Although, from what you were telling me, Roger Williams is apparently very supportive, which I love so much. But that's really cool. So what did y'all come up with? And talk to me about the collaboration and how you came up with this plan for Poppy, because oh my God, she is so beautiful. She seems so sweet. I posted pictures of them today from yesterday, and I had this thought that I was like, maybe I just like binturongs because I have insane bedhead, and they always look like they have insane bedhead. But Poppy looks like a beautiful little stuffed animal.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Crazy.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
So what was this plan?
So when, just kind of piggybacking on what Kate was saying, when I started, Poppy was very ill. She had just undergone some surgery. I believe we took her to Tufts and did some serious diagnostics with her. She ended up having some spinal problems that were genetic. She had some genetic gastrointestinal issues, as you know, a lot of animals in managed conditions tend to do when we're managing their genetic, their genetic population and whatnot. And somehow, between her coming back from this surgery and all of the diagnostics that we had done to save her life, to increase her quality of life, which I have to give a major shout out to our veterinary team at Roger Williams Park, because I love this snapping in the mic. This is a speakeasy now. I don't know if you knew that, but it is what it is. So I have to give a major shout out to our veterinary team, because they really went above and beyond to figure out what is bothering this animal, what is going on with her, why is she in pain, why is she not behaving in the way that she needs to be, and what can we do to increase her quality of life, and like what is realistic and what isn't. But then also with that pursuit of knowledge and saying, okay, if this is strange, like we're going to write a paper on this, we need to write this up because this is unique. And so that experience was really impactful for me, coming on as a new keeper, being like, nobody really knows what's going on with this animal, but you have this team of people who are so committed to finding out what the heck is going on. So I don't know her exact diagnosis, but
and that's just not with Poppy. Dr. Jessica, Dr. Kim, Abby, and Bonnie, when the smallest animal, a Madagascar hissing cockroach, to an elephant, if there's something that seems off to a keeper, that team of vet staff will do everything in their power to find out and fix it. Yeah.
And that was evident,
amazing.
like, from the jump for me. I came in and I said, wow, okay, like, this is a team of veterinarians who really are committed. And that's what you would hope, for veterinarians. So, like, they're doing the literal most, and they're awesome. But so her diagnostics came back and they said, okay, she's got some spinal issues and she has some digestive issues. We need to, change her diet a little bit. And she went completely off her food. She didn't want to eat anything. She was refusing all food from keepers, to the point where keepers were literally like standing pretty much face to face with this animal and just trying to hand feed her. And she, I think, was successful maybe 30% of the time. Wow. And then she had something that we still don't really know come across with her vision. Suddenly her eyes went very cloudy and we thought, oh my gosh, now what? So this is when I came on board as a keeper.
Welcome.
And I thought, oh, I'm the new binturong keeper. Oh, and she's dying.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. And I've been in the zookeeping world for a long time. And so that's one of the sad things about our job is, that animals die and it doesn't matter how hard we work to save them. They die. It's just the fact of our careers. And I thought, what a bummer, for her, first and foremost, because I knew she was a young animal. And then for me, because I had never gotten to work with binturongs before until I had come here. I love carnivores. I love all animals, period. So as I mentioned earlier, I can't rank them. My ranking order is like constantly changing. It's like a March Madness bracket. I'm not a sports person. I don't really know how those brackets work, but
I was going to say, not the best analogy, but I'll let it fly.
Yeah, good. So tell your fans I'm not a sports person without telling your fans I'm not a sports person. So anyways, constantly just like figuring out my favorite animals, but I have a favorite body type, and that is long. Because I got a long body. Does it have a long tail? And does it have sharp teeth? I'm in. Sold. Okay. Any animal that fits that shape, perfect.
Amazing.
So that's binturong, right?
Yeah.
And that's otters. I love a good civet, huge African palm civet.
Yes.
Phanolocas. National Zoo has a phanoloca that I would literally die for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So those kinds of animals, I'm just all about it. So I was so pumped to work with binturongs. Then I thought, this is not going to be great. This is going to be sad, for me. And then the other side of that is I was coming into working with binturongs, having never worked with binturongs before. And I can recognize, I think I'm an intelligent person and I think I'm a pretty good zookeeper, but I know when to say, I don't know anything about this animal. I could, Google, or read textbooks, but I'd never worked with an animal before. So for me, coming aboard this animal's in this situation that she's in health-wise, and I'm looking to Kate, who has worked with her more than I am. And I am looking at Kate as the person who is teaching me about that animal. And I'm like, we do, and every zoo is different, but a lot of the ways that we work our areas is generally you have one keeper working, you have multiple keepers in an area, but you have one keeper working a subset of animals. So I'm like, well, I'm going to be working these binturongs alone. And I don't know these individual animals. I have zero relationship with either one of these animals right now. She is not well. She's on a boatload of medications that I am responsible for administering. And I need somebody to model how to interact with these animals for me. And that was Kate. So I would say, well, what, Kate would say, I'm new. And I'd be like, no, I don't care. Because I'm new. You've been doing this longer than me. And my personal philosophy about anything is I try not to be a judgmental person, and I try to just watch and say, no matter what I see, I'm going to learn something. Mm-hmm. I would rather learn what not to do than never have that information ever profited over to me. So, I said, I'm just going to watch you. I want to see how you move around these animals. I want to see how close to them do you get? How do you do this? And I spent a lot of time not just watching those animals, but I spent a lot of time watching Kate interacting with those animals so that I could learn how to interact with those animals. Because my background was animal training, and I'm a huge behavior fan, and I love the science of behavior. And I think that there's a lot of demystifying that's left to be done in regards to the science of behavior and with zoos and animals under managed care. And so I didn't feel good about being like, we're going to do this for her without first having that opportunity to observe that animal in those conditions that she was in with the keepers that she knew. So I really leaned really heavily on Kate. And I think that is how Kate and I ended up working together, because I could see that here was a keeper that really cared about what she was doing and really cared about these animals and really wanted to do things that maybe you didn't feel comfortable doing. You're like, I really want to train her, but I don't really know how. And I'm like, cool. Well, I know how to do that. And you know how to do something that I don't know how to do. So you teach me and I'm going to teach you. And that's kind of what happened. And so we said, okay, she's got all these things going on. She needs all of these meds. And we all sat down with management and we said, let's talk about the medical stuff, because obviously physical health of your animal is very important in terms of our humane hierarchy, making sure that, their physical needs are met first. And then we'll kind of move through that pedagogy of trying to figure out what we can change. And I brought behavior science to the table in that conversation. So we said, okay, we know these are the things that she's dealing with health-wise. So now we're going to look at her environment and how can we manage her environment to make her more successful. So that pretty much included a complete change of the way her interior habitat was set up. We advocated to increase perching space for her, but perching space that was accessible, understanding that she will always have these spinal issues that she has. She is not able to climb as deftly as a standard binturong. She does use her tail, but not in the same ways that other binturongs do. So we're saying, we have binturong specific behavior, this umbrella of behaviors that binturongs as a species do, but we're looking at this individual animal right now. And we're looking at Poppy and what is Poppy capable of right now? And how can we set up her environment right now to increase her quality of life? And then that's essentially what we did. And people kind of thought we were a little bit of nutterbags over it because we said, this has got to go and this is going to go. And we're going to bring this tree in. And, we want a wall where a window is.
Yep.
And,
Exactly. Yep.
And
tore it all down, built it right back up.
And we tore it all down and we built it right back up without any extra time or, special permissions. We said, we're doing this and we're doing this for her. And so we changed her environment. And then we said, okay, now we're going to look at her behavior. And now we're going to focus on building skills. So I focused on building Kate's.
I'm sorry, let me pause for
Sure.
1 second. Just when you made the physical habitat changes,
Yeah.
did you notice any progression with Poppy?
Yes. As soon as we put bigger pieces of perching, because she was essentially just had ramps and some little pieces of perching, almost like a catwalk, but not to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I see that perch, I'm gonna go climb it. And then she was just
Yeah.
up and over and around, and she would, get down on the floor, and then she would climb up the perching from the floor. And it was crazy to see the change that she made in a short amount of time, because she went from just sitting in one spot all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Did you see the Colombian government is spending almost $4 million to relocate Pablo Escobar's hippos?
In Brazil, a school of piranha attacked and injured at least 8 people at a beach resort.
First fatal mountain lion attack in 20 years in California.
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You may have seen me on Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive or Shark Week. So join me and my friends as we break down animal news from around the world and discuss all things wildlife. Click here to unlock these animal mysteries.
Not feeling confident enough to, get up and walk around and explore her holding space, to being like up in the ceiling when I would come in and do the husbandry for them.
Right.
So yeah, it's just amazing how resilient she actually is, because we were told that it was time.
It was pretty much endgame. And we changed. So, normally when you're coming in and you're trying to evaluate why an animal is behaving or maybe not behaving or not thriving, you kind of only want to tinker with a couple variables at a time. this was a situation where we knew that we were not going to be afforded a remove one thing at a time situation. So, we had our incredible vet team that we've already mentioned working on the medical side and the physical health side. And then Kate and I said, okay, we're going to work on right now, before we even start on any kind of behavioral side, we're going to work on the physical habitat. And we changed a lot of stuff, and we changed it again. And then we changed it again because we changed it and it was too much. That animal was like, wowie, wow, new house. and we said, okay, we'll take us. And I think that's an important thing to mention, because like keepers get really excited. We're like, oh my God, yeah, we get this chance. We get this chance to give her the best.
Right.
And that animal was like, yeah, this is great. This is a lot. So we scaled it back. So we put in and then we took it out. We put stuff in and we thought, binturongs behave this way, right? Again, binturongs behave in this kind of species, umbrella shape. And then she wasn't doing it. And we said, well, obviously not this binturong. So we adjusted it and we scaled it back, and we constantly revised her habitat inside and outside until we saw her do these things, until we saw her start to be like, yes, I can climb on that branch. And then it was like, can you climb on just this branch? Or is it this height of things? And so we slowly built her world and increased these species-specific natural behaviors for her in a way that was not overwhelming, in a way that allowed her to have a lot of successes with those. And then we removed also a lot of the furniture that she had not had success with. So with some of her spinal injuries and going down is harder on her. And obviously binturongs don't see as well as other animals. And so we were like, maybe there's a depth perception issue here. So we changed the incline of a lot of her perching. And that made a huge difference. We made the perching much, much longer, but a lot less steep. And then we saw her begin to engage in these behaviors that you would think a binturong would be behaving in. And then there were certain items in her habitat that she didn't want to use, maybe because they were wobbly. And people would say, well, they need that, calisthenic ability, and they need that core strength. But this individual didn't have that.
Right.
So we took that out and we replaced it with something that she could use. And it wasn't an overnight process, but it definitely was in a relative short amount of time to see her become the animal that I don't think anybody realized that she could be. And that was truly wonderful. And then when she started moving around, we said, all right, well, she's doing great. So maybe let's go farther now. Let's see, does she want to train? Does she want to do these things? So it's going back to what I was saying, skill building. Mm-hmm. We said, what skills do we want her to have? And I'm like, well, I know how to teach these skills, but then I have a keeper who wants to learn these skills and loves this animal. I don't need to be the person to, I'm sorry, I'm touching the mic. I don't need to be the person to teach the skills, but I can teach Kate how to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we've done.
Yeah.
I said, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
What do you want to learn to do?
Khaz would explain it and then say, do you understand what I'm saying? And I would go, yeah, I do. I get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's just been success after success. And she's a binturong now and alive and all the things, right?
Yeah. I don't think she's ever going to be like normal. I'm using air quotes.
Right.
Podcast can't
see.
see.
Heck right here is normal.
Exactly.
Right? Just the three of us have zero of that.
Exactly.
For sure. I think that she's always going to need some special considerations. Mm-hmm. But from the animal that she was a year ago, when I really started working with binturong, to the animal that she is now, is incredible. She's incredible. I mean, they all are, right? Every animal, but like, she really is incredible. And I think that she proved everybody wrong. And you got to love that.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I love how this story is it's just everything that I love, really, because it's amazing teamwork. It's collaboration on the training side of things and the husbandry side of things and the veterinary side of things. And it's one facility focusing on one animal to such a ridiculous degree. Let's be clear. Euthanizing would have been a lot easier, not emotionally, but work-wise, time-wise. And, I know that a lot of times, I don't talk about this a lot on the podcast, but, y'all get paid for the hours that you work. Every hour that you spent working on that, Roger Williams Park Zoo was paying you money that could have gone elsewhere to try this and hope that it worked. And the fact that it did, and that time and patience was there from the zoo, from your supervisors, most importantly from y'all, is really incredible. And I love that you approached it from all different sides, and it built this thing. That's that's such a beautiful story. That kind of thing just always melts my heart. Like, that's just so cool. Yeah. So that is...
and we're still doing it, too.
Oh, right, of course.
Well, Ricky's older, too, and he's gone through his various health issues. And so we said, well, we did this with Poppy. Let's follow the same steps and do this with Ricky. And so he's a completely different animal with completely different needs and completely different ailments, but we've done it. We created a little Ricky haven.
I call it the binturongs spa.
Yeah, it's a binturongs spa. He has a little humidifier going all the time, and he's, we made him, as the zookeepers love to do, we made him his fire hose bed, and we said, let's make this old guy as comfortable as possible for as long as possible, as long as it is humane.
Yes.
And he's thriving.
Yeah.
People, when we say, he's 18, people are like, no way. He's 5.
Right.
He's hanging upside down. He is grabbing stuff. He's growling at it, grumpy. And
oh my gosh, he's so grumpy. It's so great.
In his face.
So
you read it on his face.
Yep. Yeah.
But even seeing his behavior change, it's been really awesome. Because, again, when I started, I'm like, I don't know anything. And I remember coming aboard and people say, okay, Ricky is a male binturong and binturongs are like this. And, I think there was a lot of lore, is the word I'm going to use, about like how this species of animal does or does not behave. And I was like, well, I've never worked with these animals before, but a part of me was like, I don't love this narrative, this prescriptive labeling to these animals, like that all male binturongs are like this.
Right. I believe the phrase that people like to use is "not all men."
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Sorry. It was just.
Okay.
It was there.
It's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
But
it's like that.
In all seriousness, Well, and that's one thing that Vouder taught me. We were talking about Vouder earlier, who you love, and Vouder's the one who taught me that training is the study of the individual, one individual. And that blew my mind because, even when talking to keepers and trainers, you start off with sea lions do this, penguins do that, which is fair to a point.
Yeah.
And I do think we have to look at that stuff to a point, but then you also have to drill down further.
Yeah. I think it informs us in the way of like, how is an animal going to find an interaction meaningful? And then we can say, all right, well, I know that a prey species is probably, and emphasis on the word probably, not going to like to be like scooped up from behind over the top. Great. But now let's look at that individual animal and its individual environment. And obviously the environment shapes the behavior. And that's where I was leading from. Kate was leading from a place of, I know this animal and I have a relationship with this animal. And that was very valuable to me because I did not. And so I was able to say, well, I can help you preserve and strengthen this relationship. And then my kickback is that I get to learn about this individual animal and how she moves about her space and what she does and what she doesn't like and who she does and doesn't like. And it's the same thing with Ricky. And when I started, he was a grumpy guy. And he's still is a grumpy guy. He's earned the right. He's 18 years old.
His interactions, though, are
amazing.
Yeah, like personally with me, when I first started working with them, I would go in and, you know, he would vocalize and I'd be like, oh, okay, sorry. Like, I'll back out of your space. I understand. But now he's like up. He's like, are we going to train? Can I have a snack?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Can I play with that broom? Can I, you know? So
I mean, he seemed very comfortable with me being in there,
Yeah.
and was very happy.
Their
And
social
from what you have
circles are
said, that would
opening.
not have happened.
Yes, which is insane.
Yeah.
Because, with people that he's never interacted before in the past, it would be, you know, stay away from
Right.
him. You know, you don't know what he can do. But when you went in and he was like smelling you and sniffing your camera, it just shows how much of like a 360 he's done.
Yeah. And that's one of the most notable things with him. I think that it's just so lovely to see. And like, there wasn't, he was not, with Poppy being as ill as she was, he was not like the pinnacle focus of what we were doing. But we were like, well, we're giving her stuff. Let's give him stuff. And we, again, really focused on creating an enriched environment and thinking about behavior-specific enrichment. We weren't just like novelty, because we had established, okay, too much novelty for Poppy was a bit overwhelming, and we saw some regression in that behavior. And so we said, okay, we'll be more intentional, as one should be. I think we were just really excited.
Yeah.
In hindsight. And so we were like, well, we know they love, allegedly, right, olfactory things. We know that their sense of smell is very strong, and that's one of their primary methods of communication. So let's start with scent enrichment. Okay, now we'll add in some auditory enrichment. Now we'll add in the visual stimulation. Now we'll roll it all together. Now we'll make it various stages of complex. And we started doing that with Ricky, I think, just as a process of doing it with Poppy. And he went from being just an animal that was vocalizing. You'd walk in the door and you could hear him in that low bent growl. And I remember when I first started, the keeper, who was the primary keeper on that run at the time, had mentioned to me, like, this animal is incredibly food aggressive. Like, don't come near his food. Don't. And me, not knowing anything about those individuals or working with Ben's before, I said, heard and understood. Right. Yeah. My background is working with wolves. So when they say, yeah, this animal is going to go after you for food, I think, copy that. I'm not going to risk it for the biscuit, you know? Yeah. Watching him go from this animal who, using a label, was relatively not thrilled about people coming into a space, or, you know, antisocial is another label, to getting up and coming towards a keeper, coming towards a new person with investigatory sniffing and pro-social behavior. And just all of these lovely, you know, binturong behaviors that we want to see. And him being like, yeah, that's novel. I need to check that out. Can I smell your camera? Actually, can I taste that? Maybe. Every time, every day. It's the best.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's just the best for both of them.
Ricky loves his smells. He loves brows. My wallpaper on my phone right now is him and a big bundle of forsythia, and he's looking up into it, and it's the most magical, beautiful photo in the entire world. And every time someone's like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, sit down, let me tell you.
Yeah, you're like, I have a story to tell you about my friend.
Yeah.
He's very long, he's very dark, he's very handsome.
Yes.
He has a tail, don't ask questions.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's extra amazing that we're talking about two binturongs here, because I'm a nerd. I mean, we're all nerds, obviously, but I'm such a nerd that a couple years ago for my birthday, my wife got me the textbooks about my favorite species. So I have the definitive sea turtle textbook, the definitive red panda. It's an amazing read, and it really is. That's the sad part. But and tree kangaroo, right? There are these books. They are definitive. They are, you know, you talk to Lisa Daybeck, who runs the SSP for tree kangaroos, and she's got the book sitting there, and also has contributed to it. You know, same with Sarah Glass and the red panda one, right? You know. There ain't no binturong book, and that's why I have 3. And I feel like binturongs are some of the lesser known, you know, and studied animals. And we were talking yesterday, and I'll plug it on the podcast again, but our friends at the Wild Animal Health Fund, that's a part of the AAZV that focuses on getting funding for studies, for health studies on animals that are in zoos and in the wild that we need a better understanding of. And I'm like, from what y'all are telling me, you should connect with them and try and get some money to do like a health study and learn more, even just like a body condition score for binturongs. There isn't one of those, like a universal one.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked. I was at the AAZV conference last year. And they're still, or they were last year, officially presenting and trying to codify one for red pandas. And red pandas are way more common and way more popular than binturong, but there wasn't one until last year, and that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Tree kangaroos, Matchie's tree kangaroos, there's been one forever. The team here was nice enough to send it to me, and I'm actually going to print it out and have it hanging in my
And make it
office.
a print.
Because again, nerd.
Yes.
But you know, it's fascinating where we have this info and where we don't. And the fact that binturong are a species that we don't have as much about. First of all, I know you already wrote down Wild Animal Health Fund, but yeah, you should. I think that'd be a great thing to look into.
Yeah.
But then also, just I think that makes it extra special that y'all had this progress, because it does come down to truly showing that it was about the individual. You didn't just consult the, in this case, literal textbooks that we're talking about with other species and do the thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we did plan it, you know, and I think I want to stress that is, you know, we did these things very quickly, but Kate and I were like, what are we trying to achieve? What is a meaningful life for this animal? Is she ever going to be, you know, swinging on her tail, doing backflips over branches? And probably not. What is achievable for her? And what are our like metrics of success? And having that and having those codified and then being like, okay, we are seeing an increase in the climbing and the exploration, and we are seeing a decrease in this behavior, allowed us to make decisions about how to further improve her quality of life and her habitat, and then ergo her behavioral repertoire.
We would have late night conversations. We'd be texting and I'd be like, what do you think about this? And then, you know, Khaz would shoot back and be like, how about this?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of off the clock stuff as well. Something about the job that's hard is to compartmentalize when certain things like this are happening. So you go home and then, you know, you pull up binturong facts. That's what I've been doing for a while now, because I would ask the questions to keepers that have been at the facility way longer than I've even been alive. Or I would ask the veterinarians and they'd be like, that's a great question. I don't know. So I would, you know, go on to the pages that other keepers ask keeper questions, and I would, you know, look on Google and try to read like scientific papers to learn more, because every day they're just so fascinating and we learn something new from them every day.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I did not intend this entire episode to be just this story in such great detail, but it has been. We're almost 50 minutes into the conversation.
Wowie, wow.
And that's amazing. And that I love that, because it shows the detail that goes into this. Like that's incredible. That was not my intention, but in a good way. Like every minute of this has been stellar, you know.
You can edit
it's so cool.
me
Oh,
out.
heck no.
Just snip,
Heck
snip,
no.
snip.
Just only when you were smacking the mic.
I did that a few times
You're
too,
fine.
didn't I?
You're fine.
I'm so sorry.
It's
I got a
very-
B-
I'm
minus
very
in
used to all of
podcast
this.
today. I'm going to obsess about it for several days probably.
Oh no, this is going to sound so good. I think. I mean, honestly, this is my first time using this setup. I'm pretty sure we're catching it all. It looks like we are.
Yeah.
No, but that's amazing. And the fact that so much went into it, that there's an entire podcast in it, makes me so happy. You know what I mean? Like, all joking aside, that's incredible. That's because, you know, at some facilities and at, you know, unaccredited places and at stuff, there's not that much thought that goes in. You couldn't do the conversation that we just had, because it required depth and understanding. And like I said, teamwork and just all that jazz. And I am so appreciative of you both for sharing this, but also just, like I said, for doing the thing. Like, as a binturong lover, it means the world to me that those two are here and healthy and happy and thriving. And I've seen it with my own two eyes and can vouch. And that's very cool, you know. I look forward to hearing more stories from you both down the road about what the dynamic duo is doing at Roger Williams Park Zoo.
Even if Khaz leaves me, I'll still be texting them.
Well, and that's the beauty of this industry.
I know.
But Khaz, you're not allowed to leave.
That's what I say. I'm
now.
like, you're not allowed to go. If I go, then you can go.
Okay.
Just start applying for positions together if you ever decide that you're not going to be here anymore. No, but that's very cool. So we are, like I said, though, at the end of our time. So would y'all like to give a shout out to any conservation organizations?
Yeah. I thought this was going to take just a way different direction. So my background is working with wolves and their behavioral ecology. And so I'm a big carnivore fan. They don't really fit my long body. I mean, they kind of have a long body. So we're going to say like wolves kind of fit the long body, long tail, sharp teeth kind of vibe. But there is a organization called Voyagers Wolf Project up in Voyagers National Park in Minnesota, and they do incredible work. I have worked with them. I have never worked with Voyagers, so let's not misquote that. But I have, through my previous jobs, engaged with them before, and they put out some really, really awesome hard science on the behavior of wolves, the effect of wolves on ecosystems, the importance of predators on ecosystems, and just greater conservation methods, and really dispelling a lot of myths about coexisting alongside predators. And if we're going to tie it back to binturongs in their native habitats are an apex predator, right? And so I look at a binturong and say, well, you're not a wolf. But really where a binturong is from, they are, the top of the food chain there. And so when you have got conflict with predators, conflict with painted dogs, and Botswana is conflict with the predator. You've got conflict with wolves in Minnesota, conflict with the predator. You've got conflict with civent adjacent animals like binturongs are. You've got conflict with the predator, and they do a lot of coexistence messaging, and they do a lot of really great hard science and hard data that they put out there to the public to say, this is what we're doing, and this is why it's important. And I would shout them out. So that's Voyagers Wolf Project and Voyagers National Parks, or just go to zoos, man.
Also that, yes.
Just go to your zoo.
I just heard of Voyagers, though, because
so dope.
they just made, I forget if it was the episode that dropped today or if it was last week, but they have come up with solar-powered tracking collars for wolves that will get all kinds of different data because they don't lose battery and they can track longer and more broadcast more efficiently. I think it's going to make a huge difference.
And think about the possibility for that, not just for wolves, but other animals, right? Like other animals. So it's really, they do some of, I think, the best work out there, and they're an awesome team and really humble people. And
not once they hear this.
And
no, that is
really
so cool. Yeah,
check them out because they are the real deal.
That's awesome. All right, Kate, good luck following that one up.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't have a specific conservation project, but like I mentioned before, one of my favorite animal is sea turtles. And I did a big project when I was a senior in college in Zanzibar, and I worked in Nungwi at a natural lagoon that rehabilitated green sea turtles. So I saw them from egg hatchlings to all the way up to, these giant adults that would just blow people's minds. And I learned very quickly that not a lot of people understand the real importance that sea turtles have to their ecosystem. So, use reusable straws, educate people on the importance of even animals that you may think don't make an impact, but really they're the glue that keeps those types of ecosystems together. Trim those plastic drink holders so they don't get stuck around our turtles, and, use reusable shopping bags so the shopping bags don't end up in our oceans and the turtles mistake them for jellyfish. so things like that. That is something that I will always be passionate about, is my little turtle friends.
I love that, obviously. And also, just as a friendly reminder to everyone listening, if you want reusable bags, a great place to get them are zoos and aquariums, because they have animal-themed ones. And I can tell you from personal experience that people will come up to you and be like, oh my gosh, I love your fox bag. And I'll be like, that's a red panda, but good try. Nope, not an aardvark. It's a pangolin, not even close, but okay, good try. But it does spark a lot of conversation, and also they look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool.
Absolutely.
Kate, I'm sorry I interrupted
please,
you.
please
Do you
steal
know
my
I have
podcast.
a giant sea turtle tattoo? My entire back is a tattoo of a loggerhead sea turtle.
Yes, and that was when I was like, I think we're best friends now.
Oh, yeah. That was like, little kid me was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist and also an astronaut, and maybe also all these other things that I never ended up being. But yeah, I love loggerhead sea turtles. I grew up, obviously, Georgia coast, and that's, we have like 5 different sea turtle species that nest on our coast, and loggerheads easily one of my top 5 favorite animals. So love this little sea turtle aficionado trifecta we got going
all
on.
Complete with tattoos
Exactly.
of sea turtles. We were whipping out our tattoos yesterday.
You have a turtle tattoo too?
Yep, all
Look
3
at
of us
this.
have turtles tattooed
With our
on us.
powers combined, it's like Captain Planet, but maybe better.
Yeah.
Love it.
We can clean the oceans
amazing.
when we come together.
Yeah.
I
love
it.
that.
So cool. If you would be interested, and no pressure, but I now have a ton of connections at New England Aquarium Sea Turtle Hospital, and if you'd ever be interested, I bet I could get you in, even just for a tour. Or they do releases every Wednesday, and they don't announce them, but it's not far away.
I'll cry.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry, Roger Williams Part 2, for calling out that day.
That was part of this 2 days ago. I was at the hospital, and then I went to release. And I was like, I might tear up a little bit. I'm not a good crier, but I'm not like, I'm not one of those guys who's like, I don't cry.
Yeah.
I am who I am, whatever. And I have video of this, and it's kind of hard to hear because of the ocean. But the first turtle hits, and I just go, the people start clapping. I just go, and the PR person goes, 1 turtle. It took you 1 turtle, and starts laughing. And I was like, it was 1 turtle.
Yeah. No, big time. Big
Yep,
time.
Done immediately.
I always say I was a turtle in another life. It's just who I was.
I would.
You kind of have a turtley look about. No, I'm kidding. That's a weird thing to say.
Fighting words.
I like being weird. Oh, come on, they're adorable.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah. I don't consider myself a big crier either until I'm like, look at that thief. I'll be like, oh, this bug. So with animals in the natural world, like, I can cry. Drop that.
I was going to say, you've told me you cried like 8 times at different little stories today, and now you're like, I don't really consider myself. Oh, it is. It's
we can tell your podcast audience crying is okay.
it is.
It's okay to have feelings.
And I think that, especially as a straight cis male individual, we've always been taught not to. So I'm like, it's weird because I'm not a big crier, but I'm also very pro crying, which is why, like, when I talk about it, I have to be honest and say, like, I'm not a big crier because it was a big moment and it shows that. But also, like, I'm glad that I cried. I'm glad that I'm in touch with myself. I could do that. Also, I've got a son. And as he gets older and more things happen, I find that I'm more of a sap, and I'm here for it.
Yeah,
crying is great. Emotions
bro, if you
are great.
don't cry when you see a sea turtle released into the ocean, are you okay?
Yeah, what is happening?
See, therapy, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself a big crier. You look at me and they're going to be like, that person doesn't cry. And really, like, I don't. But I think that those kinds of experiences are very meaningful, and they touch a core of us that I think a lot of people are kind of out of touch with. So, like, hell yeah, I'm going to cry when a beautiful bug crosses my path, because I'm like, oh God, the world in microcosm. Yeah. How amazing it is that we get to live on a planet where things like this exist. And not only do they exist, but like, we get to work with them. I get paid money to work with them.
Yep.
And it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's the best. Yeah. They're not a big crier, but they're about to cry again.
I'm not crying. I'm just thinking about how cool animals are now. But yeah. Turtles, hands down, I would cry. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I would ugly cry.
Amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. Yeah. And because we are in this beautiful conversational moment, I'm going to ruin it.
In my last facility, I had the distinguished pleasure of being able to hand raise and socialize 7 North American gray wolf puppies. And it was
I've already
fabulous.
decided, by the way, not to interrupt, but I've already decided that I think I need you both on individually, because this was awesome for this story, but we talked about a lot of other animals yesterday. I know you have a lot of stuff, and you have a world that you want to talk about, I can tell. So I think we're going to have to double back to this. In the best way. I'm excited.
I'll talk about anything.
Also, I have people who come on regularly. Like, I have return guests. People love that. So no, this has been great for the binturong thing, but I'm already like, when can I have some individual time? Very much. But anyway, go ahead.
So this was in the puppy raising process, and we were introducing whole carcass foods to the pups. And so we were feeding them whole rabbit carcasses, which is a similar practice that you see across a lot of zoos who do whole prey. And wolves are a very pro-social animal. And so I had a pup bring their rabbit carcass all over to me. So when we were raising them, we pretty much were rain, sun, heat, terrible weather. We were in it. And she had just ingested this whole rabbit, and she was very, very quite just chuffed, very pleased with herself. And she comes hauling over to me, and she sees me, and she's very, very excited. And she jumps up, and she is licking me all in the face, and she's kissing me all in the face. This wolf is a pro-social behavior again. And then she burps, and she deposited a whole rabbit foot into my mouth.
Oh, those are lucky, So.
And that is, I don't know if that is the grossest story, but that was awful.
The fact that you don't know if it was the grossest story is also amazing.
And it's very funny. It was very awful. Also very wholesome. And I did not throw up. And so I would some stabs for myself.
That's impressive.
I did not throw up. But that was the first story that came to mind. And I was like, oh no, she did. She burped a rabbit foot right into my mouth. I, who was a vegetarian at the time.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Did not eat meat at all, and said, I love this animal. I think I'm going to die here. And that is my grossest story for the moment, for sure.
That's a really good one.
Oh, that's a good one. So mine that I can think of right now is I was working in the reptile room in education, and we usually will overturn all the mulch and all the exhibits daily to increase the humidity. Thank you.
Got you,
humidity.
fam.
Thank
Good
you.
teamwork.
Long day. To increase the humidity. And so I was doing that in the red-tailed boas exhibit, and I saw these like huge pieces of bark in the back, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta like move those around, give him something else to figure out in his exhibit space. And I grabbed it, and it was his crap. And it smushed all in my hands. I went in, I double-handed that exhibit because I was really overturning his mulch. And when I tell you that this poop was the size of a grown man's poop, that's why I went to reach for it, because I thought it was a log. I'm not lying. And I walked out, and I think I was working with our keeper, Diana, and I was like, Diana, I don't know what to do. I'm covered in poop, and I don't know what to do.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, I have another one that you can use. Use this one instead of the wolf story, because it's a tree kangaroo story.
Okay, I can use both.
Oh.
Trust me, my audience is all about
This involves Kate, so it piggybacks on the wholesome friendship story. So, I love tree kangaroos, but I never had the opportunity to work with them. So I came here and I work with them now, and that's great. But I'm like relying on people like Mac, who I know you know is an expert in tree kangaroos, and Kate, who's been doing it longer than me. So I say, okay, teach me. I'm a sponge. I want to know. So recently, we had our kangaroos go through a breeding cycle, so Kewing and Marobi, and she was cycling, so we had them breeding on exhibit, and then we were told, all right, Joey watch, this is the deal. This is what it looks like when you're looking for a baby. These are the signs. And I'm like, great, got it. Sounds super easy. And I'm cleaning the habitat where it's on exhibit. It's the end of the day, and I'm cleaning, and I see this like bit of shavings. And I said, oh, that looks weird. Like, that doesn't look like normal shavings. And I reached down and I go, oh, that's pink. And I thought, oh my God, is this the Joey? Like, did I miss this Joey? And I reach down and I grab it with my hands and I pick it up, and it is gummy and pink and sticky, and it looks like it's fleshy. And I'm like, oh no, this is a Joey, but it's busted. Like, this Joey is deformed. This Joey didn't make it. This Joey is dead. And I was panicking. And so I called Kate on the radio and I'm like, where are you? I need to find you. I need to see you. Kate, I don't know what you're doing. Nothing important. And I come in the room. She's doing what she's doing on the ground. And I was like, I need you to tell me if this is a baby Joey. And I stick my hand out and I have it in my hand. And Kate dies laughing. And she's like, no, that's not a Joey. And I'm like, it's flesh though. Like, it's gummy, it's flesh. I was like, I tried to break it open. Like, it doesn't have any blood. And she was like, you're never going to guess what that is. And I was like, is it a baby Joey? Like, you have to tell me, because I'm freaking out. And I had a sperm plug in my hand. I was squeezing it and poking it. And I was like, is this a baby? And she was like, no. Just this stupid, sly grin on her face. She was like, not a baby. Not a baby at all. She was like,
I like to leave those on the counter in the keeper space and throw them at keepers that come in.
So that was the day I learned they did that. I didn't know that they did that. And then I was like, ew. Promptly washed my hands. It was a very funny story. And then I told Mac about it later, and she was like, yeah, and if you put it in water, it like dissolves. And I'm like,
so anyways, treat kangaroo date night.
Yeah, so it's not a baby Joey. Good job, Arobi. And ew.
Yes.
And that was a good one. That was pretty gross.
That was funny.
That's amazing.
That was funny.
And I learned something.
She's like, is this alive? And I was like,
I knew it wasn't alive because it had no head. But I thought I was like, this is weird. This is not.
Oh, that was good.
Tell me it's not a baby. And you did. You told me it was not a baby.
It was not a baby.
Not a baby.
Good job. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for doing this. This has been a blast.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you.
Humoring us as we talk about the animals that we love so much.
Aminals.
I feel like that interview is almost the perfect distillation of everything that this podcast is and that I, love about zoos. Just taking care of those animals so beautifully, looking at the individual, learning from each other, combining talents, being so passionate, doing homework, all the things. It's just like, I love it. These are the episodes where, like, when people ask me, if I care about my download numbers or whatever for the podcast, I'm like, I don't for my own edification or whatever, but like, I think that stories should be heard by everyone. Like, literally everyone, right? Like, Khaz and Kate should be like, I don't know, the movie of the week somewhere or whatever. And I just, I don't know. I find myself spending time with people and hearing these stories and getting to have these experiences and just being like, wow. There's no other way to put it. These two are incredible humans. The binturongs that we talked about are incredible binturongs. And it's very meaningful to me that I got to see these animals and hear this story and then bring it to all of you. So yeah, I'm just very grateful right now is really what I'm trying to say. I'm also grateful to my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, including Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Kevin Williams. Yay! Red Panda level patrons. And with all of that said, the last thing that I will leave you with is a quick reminder to be here on Friday for Zoo News and to not forget that the word credits backwards is Steiderk.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.